This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, let's talk some Phoenix Suns. A tough loss last night in Los Angeles, a controversial call, lots of turnovers, and lots to kind of chew on here as we decide if the Suns are a title contender. Let's get an expert's opinion and go over to PHNX and check in with the one, the only Espo, who apparently is protesting last night's loss in the call by not wearing his colorful glasses today.
Well, I just read the last 2-minute report from the NBA and threw my glasses and can't find my colorful toppers now. So this is the way you're going to get me.
Yeah, I read that as well, and I think that was just a big snow job. I think that was just covering for the officials with what they said last night. How could you tell that the ball was pinned against Austin Reeves' leg in a split second while LeBron is shaking you trying to call timeout? Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to tell that. And the thing with the last 2-minute report is I look at it like a self-evaluation. We all have to do those at work this time of year. And who actually sits there and goes, you know what? I was really terrible in 2023, and I think you probably should dock my pay. You know, nobody's doing that. So when you're self-policing yourself in these 2-minute reports, I didn't expect them to come out and be like, hey, you know, this game that's leading to our Vegas in-season tournament games that we're putting everything on. We were totally wrong, and the Suns should probably be there. I didn't expect that. I think when it's a split-second decision like this, you should be able to review it. They said you couldn't review it. That's what they told Frank Vogel. And in my mind, if you have the ability to do it, you should do it, because the most important thing is to get the call right, not to sit there and argue about semantics of the rules. Suns had a challenge. They could have said, oh, inadvertent whistle, we want to go back and review this. They should have, because it was such a big moment. This is such a big thing for the league. I feel like it's egregious to not at least cover yourself in that way.
Right, and I'm trying to think. I mean, it seems like everything. I didn't even know there were things that can't be reviewed. Do you think this is going to come up again, where it's like, oh, I mean, because this is pretty egregious. You could argue whether or not it cost the Suns a game with the 22 turnovers, but did this cost the Suns a game, in your opinion?
The Suns cost themselves a game last night when you give up 28 more shot attempts than you have. You have the amount of turnovers that they did, 10 in the first quarter, which was more than actual made field goals that they had. The Suns cost themselves this game, but the refs cost the Suns an opportunity to bail themselves out late in that game. And that's what's frustrating, is with how bad the Suns played, in particular in that first half, to fight all the way back and get robbed from the opportunity to basically steal a game from the Lakers was unfortunate. I mean, this was uneven reffing all night. The Lakers got to play like it was a 1990s Knicks-Pacers game, and the Suns got called like it was flag football. It was the weirdest dichotomy in terms of the play, in terms of the foul calling. But the Suns did themselves zero favors in that game.
Right, and Booker's headband being kind of twisted around his head, I think, told the story in the first half. Do you think Booker playing point guard is inhibiting his ability to be a scorer?
No. I mean, he's averaging over 28 points a game. You go back and look at during that 7-game win streak, this, I think a lot of people are overreacting to one bad game, because it came with a lot of eyes on it against the Lakers, who the Suns fans obviously have disdain for, and rightfully so. I think we're overreacting in a large way to one game, rather than looking at in totality what Devin Booker's been able to do, how he's been able to average a high volume of points while also averaging his best assist work that he's had in his career. Is it sacrificing maybe his efficiency a little bit? Sure, but it's not making him an ineffective scorer at this point.
I was trying to picture how Bradley Beal would impact the game last night, and I couldn't. I mean, I was trying to. I guess maybe you take Grayson Allen out. He had a pretty decent night. And how much does Bradley Beal bring that's extra there with an Allen off the floor. How does Bradley Beal impact last night's game if he were on the floor?
Well, I think you're looking at the wrong guy that you'd take off the floor, at least with that starting unit and potentially in that fourth quarter. I think Eric Gordon is the guy that likely would have been and will be the odd man out from that starting group. The way I think it would have affected things and impacted things is Devin Booker having another safety valve, another guy that could bring the ball up the court, and they can better and more effectively stagger those minutes between the superstars, where you always have two of the three on the court at any given time, and you can close out the game with all three. At times last night, Booker was driving himself into double teams and waiting too long to make the pass. I don't know if that is not necessarily trusting anybody that's not named KD out there at times. But what I think, Bradley Beal could have done was given him another outlet and a guy that isn't afraid to drive into the paint, be aggressive, get some fouls. That could have changed the dynamic with Anthony Davis, because they all seemed quite timid to go down into the paint at times in the game. And I think that's where Bradley Beal could have been more effective.
Were there flashbacks to last year's playoffs against the Nuggets, seeing what Devin and Kevin can do together and seeing the turnovers and realizing that it wasn't enough?
No, I mean, this is
like, do you feel like they've gotten better since last year?
Well, yeah, go look at the win streak, and they averaged, a little over 12 turnovers, which was much better than what we saw last night, was much better than what we've seen throughout the season. I mean, if you look at a large part of the turnover problems have come in 5 games, 2 against San Antonio, 3 against the Lakers. I think some of this is matchup based as well that's causing us. I'm not overly concerned. We're sitting in December. We've seen flashes of brilliance. We've seen where they've struggled in fourth quarters and struggled mightily at times, whether it's scoring or turnovers. But what we haven't seen is consistency. And until we see consistency and we see these kind of problems, I'm not going to be overly concerned. Now, if we still haven't seen a large amount of the big three come February, and we've seen Booker and KD miss time and Beal being in and out, and there's still just no ability to get consistency, then I'll be concerned. But I'm not overly concerned right now. And let's be frank, as much as we've enjoyed the in-season tournament, as much as it amped up the feeling in these games, that was still an early December Tuesday night game, to be frank.
Yeah, ratings were up on it like a crazy amount. TNT just put out its numbers. We're waiting for our numbers to get out as well. But what was the number here? It looks like TNT was up 89% and had 2 million people watching. So it's a good time to have basketball on your local airwaves here. So you a fan of this in-season tournament? I mean, I had high hopes that you and I were going to meet up in Vegas and do some sort of show there. Are you still going?
No, and I'm kind of
non-refundable tickets. Oh, sorry, honey.
I got 4 hours of sleep and was going to drive 5.5 hours. I'm glad I didn't have to from that perspective. But the in-season tournament's been a giant success because honestly, it's a marketing tool to make people want to watch basketball more so in November and December, and it's been a big win. And it's made the games more entertaining because I think you're seeing a little bit more effort being put in these games. You could see it last night, Booker and KD and this whole team getting very fired up where, yeah, sure, in most cases they still would have been, but it ratchets it up another level. And I think this has been everything that the league has wanted. And we'll see how it plays out in Vegas with the semifinal and final. But my guess is this is going to be just another win for the NBA. And again, it's marketing. It's also dollars. It gives another television package that they can sell as they go into their media rights negotiation next year.
Do you have a rule book lying around the offices there at PHNX that we might be able to see? What else is not reviewable?
No, my rule book is our friend Gerald Bourget. He helps inform me. I do not have an actual book. I'm sorry.
I got to figure out, we have cameras everywhere. This it's almost like, what's the point of having instant replay if there are some technicalities? You should be able to review everything. This is ridiculous, and I wanted to go to Vegas, and I'm mad, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Well, join me in Summer League. We'll be there.
Okay.
The stakes aren't quite the same, but the city is. It's just a little bit warmer.
All right.
Yeah, I agree, though. If you can review any things, you should be able to review everything. Get the calls right. That's the most important thing. And it obviously didn't happen last night. Unless you believe the refs, then they were perfect. So...
Well, it's on to Friday for the Phoenix Suns. Espo, we always appreciate your time here. Give us an idea of what else you got coming down the pike this week.
Just, our daily show at 3 p.m. We got our pre- and post-game shows on Friday for the game, and then we're going to enjoy a weekend off because we don't usually get those around here.
Gerald will probably be reading the rule book, so we'll quiz him on Monday. All right. Thanks so much, man. Have a good night.
Always a pleasure.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.